Gaming is everything to me.
Gaming is the best form of storytelling.
Gaming is a refresh button for me.
Closest people in my life are my gaming friends.
As jury president for the Gaming and Entertainment category at Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity, Amitesh Rao, CEO South Asia Leo, argues that brands still misunderstand gaming as a media by rather than a community shaping behavior, identity, and even employability.
I would really like to see esports specifically as a category. The Olympics is recognizing it. Betting is not gaming. Classical gamer is very skeptical and cynical of commercialism intruding into their world of gaming and community. The world's biggest esports tournament. Its prize money is bigger than any Grand Slam.
Hi Amitesh, it's nice to have you again with us at Campaign.
Lovely to be here.
Thank
Great
you.
to be here.
Congratulations on being a juror for the Cannes category, which is on gaming, it's a very exciting category.
It is. It really is.
And it leads in perfectly with your past experiences, right? You've been a gamer, you've been a CEO of a gaming company. So how have you seen this entire industry evolve in the past couple of years?
I'm really delighted to actually be on this jury. For me, it really means a lot. I mean, I've been a gamer since before the word was invented, right? So I've seen gaming close up from many different perspectives over the last, I would say, 3 decades. It's very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about gaming as culture, as a business, as an industry.
Gaming as a category was added only 2 years ago, and you just mentioned that, you have been a passionate gaming person even before the word was invented. Why do you think that it took, it's such a recent addition to this categories and
gaming has also evolved a lot particularly in the last decade, I would say, right? For it to have become what is now a very strong cultural pillar across the world. For a long period of time, gaming was something that a few people would do, sitting all night in a dark room and just, it was very niche. But it's now mainstream, right? And I think being a category in Cannes is symptomatic of the fact that the world is now recognizing that gaming is like movies, or it's like sport, like cricket or football.
A few years ago, one would think of gamers as someone sitting in a dingy, dark cyber cafe, let's say, or something like that. But that cohort are now older people, right? They might still have the same kind of passion for gaming, which I can see is evident in you. But these are the guys who are now probably running their own households, holding great jobs, entrepreneurs with loans to pay. Do you think gaming by itself as a category has been able to keep pace with the changes in this cohort?
The funny thing is, like, as creative people, often we're in the storytelling business, and semantics are everything. The right words and the right labels mean a lot. I think gaming is just the wrong word to use for this business, for this category, because gaming means so many different things. It's very complex. And you're right, what you just alluded to, there are so many different facets to gaming. You still have the, youngster, the teenager, spending 5 hours a night locked up in their rooms playing game, although the kind of game is now very different. I think it's a lot more community oriented. It's a lot more skill shaping. There's a lot more complexity to the games that those guys play. But it's also, 60-year-olds playing rummy. It's also 35-year-old housewives who's spending time, on a mobile phone. It's young entrepreneurs. It's students who are going through gamification in their education programs. So this one word called gaming actually doesn't do justice to all the different things that it encompasses. In the narrowest sense, gaming, and particularly perhaps from a Cannes jury perspective, it is still the idea of a game, right? It's a digital game. Now, that game may take many different forms. It could be a MMORPG, it could be a card game, it could be a betting game, it could be a streaming platform for gamers, it could be a gaming community. So there are many aspects to that, but it's still fundamentally a game. So I think one has to narrow it down a little bit, otherwise that definition is very, very wide.
You're literally in the business of semantics, where it kind of is a starting point for just about anything that you do. And you said that gaming is a very narrow term. If it were left to you, how would you reword it or recategorize it?
I'd separate gaming and gamification to start with, right? I think gamification is something that modern society is already geared towards. The idea of competitiveness is no longer just competitiveness in grades or in a football field, but competitiveness in gamification is now entered marketplaces, shopping, education systems. So the idea of gamification, I would separate that, because that is, and it's a very, very fascinating way to actually promote products, research, study, culture, a lot of different things. And then the word gaming, I would, there is competitive gaming and there is casual gaming, right? I would definitely use that as a starting point to separate it. Competitive gaming it tends to be a lot more intense, sometimes a lot more fruitful and meaningful. It shapes people in many ways today. And casual gaming is, it takes up a lot of time. It's a much more broad-based activity, and it covers a whole lot of many different kinds of game. Most casual gaming is on the mobile phone. Competitive gaming is on the mobile as well, but it's also on the PC and it's on console, and there are different formats to it.
So, if I were to shift gears to your role now as a juror, you mentioned very clearly that gaming is no longer just a niche; it has become part of the cultural fabric across geographies. So, according to you, when you will start looking at the various case studies, how will you identify what separates a campaign that merely probably uses the word gaming to one that genuinely understands this particular gaming culture, this particular gaming ecosystem, and then earns the legitimacy that is required?
Yeah. Interesting, and that's what I'm really actually looking forward to, because I think the best work in the world has started moving towards understanding what gaming is in society, and not using gaming purely as a distribution platform or as a media channel, which is the early stage of what most brands have been doing with gaming, using it to activate, right? Whether it's in-game branding or a game activation of some kinds. Brands have been doing that already for some time, but the really meaningful stuff acknowledges what gaming is to people today and to society today. I'll give you an example, right? I think a 20-year-old today learns more about life and how to deal with life through a game than she does in school, right? I used to be a footballer at one time, right? And I learned communication skills, I learned teamwork, I learned leadership, I learned multitasking, I learned position play on a football field. Today's 20-year-old is learning what it is to succeed and how to deal with failure in a game. These are life lessons. This is not some time pass activity, right? Forget brands and marketing for a minute. The more that game design and games are understanding this reality and the responsibility they have towards feeding back to this growth aspect of young people, that's happening. And the faster it happens, the better it is. Because then you're understanding gaming as culture and not as, hey, there's this game, let me put my logo into the glass on that game. Then that's fine, that's happening, but there's nothing really path breaking in that, right? It's not about visibility and impressions and reach. Those are not the things I'm looking for in the best work from gaming. I'm looking for work that acknowledges the role that gaming plays in society, particularly the developmental role. I think gaming is also a fantastic way, and we've seen work like this already in the last few years, to drive purpose, right? People are using, because games are so engaging, it's also a great platform to drive social purpose, sustainability, various different causes built through a game. And it takes the heaviness and the weight and the sometimes drudgery out of those big words, and it makes it a lot more relatable. And that's the other thing about young people. They are very purpose driven. This generation is highly purpose driven, right? but they find it through a game. So I'd like to see some of that in the work as well.
As you said about football, and you're learning from football and learning a lot of life skills from football. Now, if you look at it as a sports itself, it is very community driven. Whether it's football, whether it's cricket or something, it's very community driven.
Yeah.
And the same is true for gaming. Gaming is also, it literally is primal and tribal in a way. So it's also very sensitive to inauthenticity. What you mentioned is that you just can't put a logo over there on the glass. It's probably not even going to register on anybody's mind. So when you are going to sit with your fellow jurors, what signals will actually tell you whether that particular piece of work spoke the language of the community rather than just treating gamers as somebody who's just waiting to get the drudgery out of their life for a couple of hours, or somebody who's just doing it as force of habit.
Yeah, I love that word, because you're absolutely right. I think one of the most fundamental aspects of what makes gaming a powerful force in culture today is the fact that it's a community. And particularly when you look at the more competitive side of games, what drives them, the biggest games in the world have the biggest communities in the world. And it's not a coincidence, right? In fact, those games are funded by their communities. The world's biggest esports tournament, its prize money is bigger than any Grand Slam, tennis Grand Slam, right? Is funded by the community. It's not sponsored by a brand, right? So those communities, they really feel for the game, for the game developers and the publishers, and for each other in that community. I think if work recognizes that, it'll be amazing. And those communities are fascinating, right? Because they exist in many different platforms. They exist within the game itself. They exist on Reddit. They exist on Twitch. They exist on multiple streaming platforms. Like any other community, there are people who are at the vanguard of the opinion of that community. Say streamers, for example, bloggers, different kinds of commentators. There are so many shades to these communities. Brands that are recognizing that and finding ways to integrate into those communities, and you're right, in an authentic way, because the classical gamer is very, very skeptical and cynical of commercialism intruding into their world of gaming and community. But I'm really looking forward to see what's happening with the work on that front as well.
It's very interesting what you mentioned about the fact that these guys are very social and they have very strong point of view when it comes to social issues. In fact, it just brought to mind another incident that happened just a few months ago when in Nepal, Discord was used to actually come up with an interim head of state, right? And what was Discord? Discord was something that was a platform for gamers to come and converse and discover new players, right? Nobody would have thought, people would have thought that the other social media platforms would be where the entire change of regime would take place. Nobody thought that the younger generation would have such strong point of view that they could use a gaming platform, since everything else was blocked out, to bring about change in the organization. So it's not just social, they seem to have very strong perspective on everything.
They do, and that's, you also have to recognize that a lot of the younger generation needs the right environment in which to express their points of view. But Discord is comfort zone, right? And that's where you will really find genuine opinion. But it also works the other way around, platforms like Discord, Twitch, the platforms which facilitate community interaction and expression are great, and there's some fantastic stuff happening there already. But it's also what game design is doing for communities, right? And I'm really interested in seeing some of that as well. In Leo, we're working on a program for a game called BGMI, which is India's largest sort of multiplayer game. I think last I heard it was 120 million odd monthly actives. You also have gamers who spend a lot of time on that game, 50, 80, 100 hours a month, a lot of them, right? What we're trying to do is capturing a lot of data about my gameplay style. Am I, not just the hours I play and when I play, but my playing style. So we're developing an AI-based algorithm to actually overlay the game data into giving you as the gamer a profile of the kind of person you are, which can be used for a professional CV application. The way you play that game will give us an insight and therefore give you an insight into what are your teamwork skills like, what are your leadership skills like, what are your communication skills like, what are your data processing skills like, right? Data that a potential employer wants to know about you, but typically in a 30-minute interview has no way of gauging it. But you've spent 400 hours playing this game. That's a very rich source of data. If we're able to overlay that onto a psychometric model that gives you a profile assessment of who you are, how amazing is that?
India has over 560 million gamers, right? And yet, gaming still attracts a disproportionately small share of media budgets. Do you think that agencies and brands still continue to treat gaming as, an experimental line? Something rather
Largely,
than
yes. Largely, yes. I think a lot of brands and agencies are treating gaming as a distribution platform, as a visibility platform, right? And that has to start changing. There's not enough of that happening anywhere, and certainly not in India. So you're right. I think that it's not a media platform on which I have to buy views. That narrative itself of gaming has to change. Neither is it just an activation platform where I can reach a target audience, which is other. So that narrative is changing. It's work in progress. It will take time. It's not going to happen overnight, because we also have to understand how to use gaming as a platform, right? Not just what to do with it, but how to use it. It's not that easy. Gaming also suffers from an absolute, these very big numbers being thrown around. They hide a lot of reality as well. Betting is not gaming. I would suspect that 560 million number includes everybody who was on the erstwhile online gaming platforms, cricket and
the real money
the
gaming.
fantasy league and the real money gaming and all of that stuff, which to me is not gaming at all. Unfortunately, it was labeled with the word gaming, and therefore even a media agency looks at it as gaming. Actually, it's not, right? Gaming is a very different world. Gaming is much more engaging. It's much more community. It's much more, skill development and learning. The real gaming world in India is still a very large number. I mean, it is shockingly large, but I don't know, 500-600 million is a lot of people who are not really gamers. And to tap into the fantasy league kind of gaming, you just do visibility and get on with life.
What is the role that agencies can play to get the brands to shift their thinking from same thing, just putting your name over there, being associated with X, not differentiating between a RNG platform with something which is more serious, more community driven like esports? So what role can agencies play to ensure that brands can change their perspective?
It's the role that an agency should play with any other cultural platform. So the basis of it doesn't change, right? I think agencies have to start with a much more insightful read and understanding of this thing called a gamer, right? Who are these people? What do they think? How do they live? So insight, right? I mean, that is the starting point. And I think the agency has to lead the way in understanding what is this very large word called gamer broken down into, because there is no one gamer. There are many different kinds, and you got to understand that and which kind of gamer is important to which brand, and break that down. And then what agencies have to do like better than anyone else, which is find creative ways to build your brand's objective into what that universe of gaming is and what that cohort of gamer is who's relevant to this brand. So the principles of what an advertising agency should do in gaming are no different from what it should do in movies or in any other sort of sport or cultural platform. Advertising agencies need to understand more about what gaming is, what a game is. We have some youngsters here who are like full-on gamers, right? But we recognize that they're coming with a wealth of knowledge about that. They're not wasting their time playing games. I mean, just change that narrative to start with. It's not a time-based environment. Change the narrative. And that changes a lot of things.
How many gamers do you have in your team right now?
15-20% of the people in this agency, any agency, would be competitive gamers. They'd be, if not, high-end esports competitive gamers playing Dota 2 and CSGO. There are enough of those as well. But certainly people playing competitive games on a console or even on a mobile phone or an algorithmic based strategy game like Age of Origins.
Gaming came as a category 2 years ago, I would say 3 years ago. What is the other category you would like to see included in Can Lion?
Since we're talking gaming and since that is such a passion point for me, I would really like to see esports specifically as a category. The Olympics is recognizing it, right? The legitimacy of esport as a sport is something the world is recognizing. Society is recognizing, governments are recognizing, regulatory is recognizing, and game developers are recognized for a long time. And I think the peculiarities of esports are very different from this amorphous word called gaming, which hides so many different things. I'd love to see an esports focused, category.
Hopefully, now that you're a juror, you will be able to convince the other fellow jurors to ensure that category comes through. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you.